introducing the new member. So, this is like a Pat Sajak question to you. Tell us about yourself, for 2 seconds.
Dr. Pat, I am coming to you from my office in my house in New Canaan. And my dog is next to me over here. My daughter's on the couch around the corner. We've been here for, I guess, about 8 years. My daughter's at Sachs Middle School, and I work at FactSet Research Systems. I've been there over 10 years. I have, about 20 years of corporate law. I'm now in a business role at FactSet, analytics for mostly asset managers and banks.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is the minutes, the December minutes. I trust everybody's had a chance to take a look at them. And does anybody have any comments, questions, additions? Mr. Simon.
We accept the minutes as done.
Second.
Anybody dissent? All in favor? Yep. All around. Item number 1. Number 2, the annual report. Mr. Simon, what do you say?
Well, everybody, I hope everyone had a chance to look at it, and the same like we just did with the minutes. I don't know if people have any additions, deletions, comments, questions, whatever. If not, I shouldn't be the one moving anything on this one.
Anybody have any questions about it? Comments? Okay.
Just so Ally knows, this is a requirement that annually we must do an annual report that goes to the Board of Selectmen, Town Council, Board of Ed people, Police Commission.
No, it doesn't go to police.
The guy that sweeps the front porch at the town hall, Pam Flynn, everybody gets this thing. I don't think any other body in town does an annual report, but we always do.
I move to accept it.
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Tammy, are you taking care of this minutes this time?
I got it all down,
Thanks a lot.
including the sweeper that needs to get the annual report.
Oh, I forgot he just lost his job, so we can eliminate him.
The next item on the agenda is our ethics webpage. And you may have, if you had a chance to see the email that I sent around today, I've been working with Sal to get it in conformity with the discussions we had in December about getting the annual reports up, the gift policies posted, and correcting a couple of typos. It's all been taken care of and looks pretty good to me, but you all didn't have a chance to review it probably in depth or detail. So if you guys see anything wrong with it or see any, typos or anything like that, give me a call and we'll get Sal on the phone and fix it up.
Okay.
As part of that webpage and forms, Bob, we come to the disclosure forms and the Mr. Simon induced retitling of the forms. I presume everybody has seen the email that I sent around. I think it was early January, wasn't it?
Yes. You're asked for the update and some changes in regards to the second paragraph, I believe.
No, well, this is a different issue, Steve. Bob, this was the retitling of them. Let me recap. Steve had some comments at our last meeting to the effect that he wanted to see relatives in business more prominently displayed on one of the forms. We discussed it back and forth because it would require putting brackets in the quoted language at the top. And that was one way to do it, but I'm not sure that every reader knows that brackets means it's not in the original. So I kind of pushed back against that, and Steve and I discussed putting a new title on it, on both documents, and that was circulated, I want to say around January 5th at 1:30 in the afternoon with the proposals of the for the retitling. And if you don't have them in front of you, I can easily recite them. Starting with the statement of disclosure of financial interest in transaction. And now I don't know if I'll be able to read with a small. Yeah, we have a statement we proposed it be retitled Statement by Town Official or Employee Disclosing Financial or Personal Interest, including that of a business or relative. Nope, this is in proposed town rules, ordinances, or legislation. So that would be the second one. And the first one would read, basically paralleling the one I just read, statement by town official or employee disclosing financial interest, including that of a business or relative, in transaction with the town. And that seems to bring the relative and business close enough to the top that we don't have to modify the text or make the text look different than it actually exists in the code. So I'm kind of in favor of retitling, but what do folks think?
Good
Well,
job.
I know Steve, you're in agreement with it.
Yeah, I think you did a good job. I'm happier with that. And I think I was upset because that was kind of buried in the body of the form, the way it was originally structured. And I think it's important for people.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
For getting the form, that they need to know that it's not just them. It's if they have a relative, if they have a business that's doing business with the town, they need to sign these particular forms. So I'm happier with that. And knowing how busy everyone is in this world, they're never going to read through necessarily the body of the form. They just, I don't have anything. And then, I forgot about Uncle Larry's towing service or something. Yeah, darn it. So I think
Okay.
this way, at least they'll see that. And, I'm happier with that. So.
Good. Bob, do you still have this on your system that we could tweak it with?
You're on mute, Bob.
Can't hear Robert.
Nope, you're on mute. There we go.
Are we back again?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, I do have it. So
Why don't you and I work together to get the form in shape, and we'll get it back to
Claudia.
Claudia, and then we'll get it posted on our website.
Okay.
Okay? Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
This forum's gone through more modifications. All I want them to do is tell them what's going on.
I know. Where did I put my agenda now? Okay, what's the next item on the agenda, everybody?
Outreach.
Oh,
Mm.
Tammy.
Yes, no word back.
A word back.
No news is good news. It doesn't mean that we're not gonna get on the League of Women Voters agenda, but they haven't said anything.
No, I got you. Well, on our last meeting, Steve suggested, I think that an article be written for the local newspapers explaining what the ethics board does and covers and that kind of thing. That's another way to do outreach. We had also discussed reaching out once again to the members of the town, the local town commissions, committees, boards, et cetera, to see if they'd be interested in presentations. But in the pandemic world that we exist, it's really hard for me to think that we're going to tie up somebody's Zoom meeting with a ethics presentation. So my thought is that we'd wait until we're post-pandemic enough to suggest to the rest of the town committees and boards, et cetera, whom we haven't spoken in front of, to see if they'd be interested. And the article to the editors, or the article for the publication in local papers, I've thought about that, and I'll try to turn to it in the next couple of months and see if I can come up with a draft to circulate by our next meeting for everybody's input.
I'm just wondering, Tucker, I mean, outreach to the individual committees on the town and the whole dynamics there makes some sense. Does it make sense to put it into the category of general public? Because we've always kind of flown under the radar in terms of where we are, instead of opening it up to the entire world.
Well, that's a fair point, Bob. I think that in this, I'm going to try to say this as neutrally as possible. In this world of where ethics seems to be a rare commodity, I am not adverse to putting something in our local newspapers that's drawing attention to good behavior and what we have, what the ethics board provides to as guidance or as suggestions for what good town council or town employee good behavior is. So that's where I come down on that. But
Well, I also think, Bob, like this was something that when we formed this board in the first instance, I mean, we did do a lot of work to revise the code and create these procedures, information that people just may not even be aware of. I mean, it's been a few years now. It's not like it's brand new, but I've always felt like it was an important opportunity for people to actually understand that we do have an ethics board, and here's kind of how you can use us for, it's not just for filing complaints, but also, for the advisory purpose of it. And we have streamlined it. And I think there's been a lot of thought put to making this a really effective means of managing, ethical questions. So I think that's why we have been trying to share this with everybody. And maybe, an article would reach more people, because we're not getting any traction with the committees themselves.
Ally, any thoughts?
Well, I don't want to take us off track, but I did wonder, what's the goal of the outreach? What's the thing you're trying to solve? Raise awareness in the community of what the ethics board is, that we have one, and then to your point, Tucker, to highlight good things too, not just have.
Well, maybe to remind people that ethics exist, that good ethical behavior should be a part of everybody's life. I mean, that's a little bit pie in the sky, but that's, I don't know that we can solve all the problems of the world, but we can start in our own little corner and making, this is too idealistic and pie in the sky. Sorry.
No, I like it.
It's good to bring it to the attention of people.
I like the spirit of the code. I mean, I'm the newest one here, so I'm gonna, not take up too much airspace. I want to listen to you all.
Take up as much as you want. It's good to hear from you.
I like the way it's written. I really like the clarity of it and the accessibility of it. And also I appreciate, it's hard to put my finger on it, but I appreciate how it's not driven by the people of the town, it seems, the process of how the board gets engaged. I liked that too.
Well, we can all, this is not a final vote on whether we're going to publish anything. This will be, I'll take my fingers to some keypad and come up with something that for everybody's to take a look at, try to circulate it before the next meeting, and then we can haggle over its language and figure it out, or decide not to send it in. Okay, that sounds good?
Sounds great.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking a crack at writing it first.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, you don't want to write it first, Tammy?
Tammy was supposed to help you, write this thing.
No,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Take his lead on this.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just thinking, it's like the ethics board should always be in the background as the as opposed to, it's not good when we come to the forefront. It means that there's something we need to deal with.
And that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, but I don't view it as such. I do think this is an opportunity for people to recognize that there there is a way in which you can address your concerns, your questions, and that's what we're here for. And I guess it's to raise awareness about even what we do and how we do it. It's not to say, yes, bring me you're tired, you're poor, and everybody should come and file complaints. No, but I do think there's a lack of understanding that we exist and that there are procedures in place for you to, mitigate your concerns.
Okay. I mean, I go back to the issues that we've had in the past, that how they've come to us. Okay. And generally they're not addressed in the proper format to come to the board. I'm thinking of the last two items that,
That's why we publicized.
Mhm.
and they weren't, of course, they weren't publicized at that point, and one was a private decision that we put out for one of our
Oh.
advisory opinions. But
Bob, I agree with the sentiment that if the ethics board has no complaints and no request for an advisory opinion, that the town is acting, and town officials and town employees are acting perfectly fine. That's the ideal situation.
I agree.
I mean, to that extent, I agree with you that we should be on the sidelines completely. But as you just mentioned in your comments, the last one or two complaints we've gotten have been out of conformity with the code. And so heightening an awareness of the codes, what we require in filing complaints or requests for advisory opinions, I don't know that it can hurt.
Okay.
But to your point, will some crackpot get inspired to file something?
Been there.
We don't know.
We've been there.
Been there.
We've
There,
Been there,
yeah.
done that. Okay.
been there. I mean,
All right. Well, I think we've done that one in.
okay, so we're going to go and let you put pen to paper.
We'll draft something up and we'll see
Yeah,
what it
we'll
looks like.
wait and see what he comes up with. Bob.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We've got 4 editors here. Let's take, you can take me apart later on.
I just don't want to end up in a re-education camp. Okay.
What's the next item on the agenda? Mine somehow disappeared. Oh, there it is. Never mind.
Mandates, Open issues.
Sure.
Excuse me. The last item, or the last item before the adjourning item, it relates to the sections that I directed your attention to in the code, and I wanted to go over some of the things that are still outstanding as far as matters that we haven't been able to get our traction on, or our arms around, or movement on. Some of you may remember, Bob, I don't know if you were on the board at the time. Some of you may remember that when we initially rewrote the code and it was accepted by the town, there remained in the code the notion that we are supposed to hear complaints from any employee aggrieved as to his or her status as condition of employment, including employees governed by the Board of Education and collective bargaining agreements, after such employee follows the grievance procedure provided by the Town of New Canaan Employee Handbook. And we had a discussion, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, that could potentially put us in a conflict position with one of our own rulings, because an employee grievance could very well, or an employee action could very well come up via an ethics complaint. Not, we haven't had that so far, but just suppose we had somebody, a town employee who's subject to the collective bargaining agreement. An ethics complaint is lodged against him or her. We have to do the normal things, go through the process, find probable cause, hold a hearing, and then recommend some action. Let me just shut the door here for a minute. my grandson is yelling about Doctor Who figures in the background. And suppose we find and there's some employee action is taken as a result of that. And then he follows the collective bargaining agreements, comes up through the ranks, and then it eventually gets to us as an appellate matter. Well, we can't really sit as an appellate board on something that we first acted on as the trial court, if you will.
Mhm.
And 2 or 3 years ago, we talked about this conflict. I spoke to Cheryl Jones, who's the head of human resources, about it, and Kevin about it. And we agreed that we would try to go forward on a path that to rewrite the town employee handbook to do that. Well, the one hiccup there is that many of the town personnel provisions are locked up in the town code. So it requires an amendment to the town code to basically free us from the conflict situation or the potential conflict situation, but also to free up the town human resource people to modernize the personnel policies, which are basically locked in place in the town code. And so in discussions with Cheryl, we proposed that basically the town code, the personnel sections that would normally be dealt with in an employee handbook be removed from the town code. And so that would enable the human resource people to basically have up-to-date modern personnel procedures, as well as figure out a way to work around the appellate issue that we could potentially face in a conflict situation. That has been in our annual reports. That's been informally discussed with members of the town council. I know Cheryl has raised it with members of the town council, and there's been probably they've been too busy to turn their attention to it's a relatively small issue for us, but I think it's a relatively substantial issue for the human resources group. And if you all remember, we have some responsibility for assisting the human resources department. I don't know exactly what that language is, but it's contained in the same section I directed your attention to. It basically says to oversee, working in collaboration, blah, blah, blah. No, that's the wrong section. Well, I'm having trouble reading this right now.
Tucker, is it that section 5 that follows the one you just started? E5, maybe? If I'm tracking what you were talking about.
Oh, yeah, to oversee the implement.
Or 6.
Yeah, I'm not finding the language
There's
there.
what, in number 6, there's a.
You go back in any event. We have some responsibility to assist the human resources department. And to me, the fact that the personnel policies are locked up in a town code rather than allowing the human resource department to redraft and modernize them presents a little bit of an issue, even though we may only be interested in that one small part about the appellate procedure. So I spoke to Cheryl earlier this year, and she was going to raise the issue with Steve Carl to see if she can get any traction on the revision of the personnel sections of the town code to enable her to modernize the employee handbook and to free us up from the the conflict or potential conflict that we might labor under. And she, I've thought about this quite a bit because it's something that we haven't been able to wrap up as part of our initial duties, if you will, in the board function. And I really would like to get it attended to this year. My thinking is that we'll hear back from Cheryl at some point, but I'm leaning towards drafting a memorandum. If the town council subcommittee on legislation doesn't get this on its agenda, I'm thinking maybe we should at least make a formal note of it and write a memorandum to the town committee town council's legislation subcommittee.
So we don't have anything currently kind of in writing recognizing this. This has just been discussed primarily.
Well, we do. We wrote it in our annual reports twice, Tammy, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
And
I mean,
I've had discussions with some members of the legislative subcommittee, and I know Cheryl has. It's just that we haven't.
I didn't know how formal any.
We don't have a formal, and so this would be more formal.
Yeah, I think that's right. It would be good to have on record kind of our view around this, and maybe that'll help move the needle a little bit.
Okay. Well, let's see how Cheryl does in the next go round, and then at our next meeting, if we don't have some positive reaction, we can think about the shape and form of a memo.
Tucker, does this have like a fibrous root in that it may go into the realm of, since the town code is already put into the collective bargaining agreements, does changing that affect the collective bargaining agreements?
I don't believe so, because Cheryl would have otherwise said it's an impossibility. So I don't think it's an issue vis-a-vis the collective bargaining groups. I think it's an issue the employee handbook and getting an updated employee handbook and employee personnel policies. That's what I think the issue is. And she's hampered by the entombment, if you will, of the personnel policies in the town code.
Okay, I mean,
and I know that they've drafted in conjunction with the town lawyers a revised employee handbook policy. Not quite finished it yet, but it probably couldn't get promulgated as an official town policies until the code is modified. So I think we need to help move that along.
no, I agree with you. I'm just trying to think: is there a reach that this goes that we haven't looked at that would stifle the effort?
Bob, I think she's been working with the town lawyers on that, and so I would assume, without knowing for sure, that if there were some issues vis-a-vis the collective bargaining agreement, they would either be addressed in the employee handbook that she's proposing or somehow otherwise dealt with. So I don't think our action will affect the collective bargaining agreements. I think what it will do is free up the human resource department to draft an employee policy that would be a lot more modern.
All right.
Okay, no, I'm all for that.
Me
All
too.
for that.
I don't have anything else on the agenda. Does anybody have any freestanding topics of miscellaneous nature that of a miscellaneous and non-confidential nature that they want to speak about? Hearing none.
It's a long way for the Reds to open their season.
The best pitcher is gone already.
I know.
The
Don't
Dodgers don't need it.
talk to me about sports. I'm an Eagles fan. I'm a Pirates fan. I'm in complete depression on that subject.
76ers look pretty sharp, though.
Yeah. The process worked, apparently.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
All right, anybody
It's
want to stick
halftime
around
of my
and chat?
day.
Okay. All right, I second your movement there, Mr. Simon. Anybody, any opposition? Pam, thank you